What is indexing? How is it different than an indexed mutual fund? There's a huge difference. Get ready. In this episode, I'm going to explain with indexing. You would not have lost up to 40% twice in the Great Recession and basically lost 12 years of growth coming back to break even. You would have doubled and even tripled your money, totally tax-free using indexing instead of being in an index mutual fund. Indexing is a strategy. An index mutual fund is a commodity. So get ready. You're going to be blown away with the difference between these two, and it could be a game changer for you and your retirement. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans prepare for a comfortable retirement and not outlive their money. My favorite financial instrument to accomplish those goals, without question, is a property structured, max-funded, indexed universal life L.A.S.E.R fund. And so let me show you the difference and what indexing is versus an index mutual fund, because a lot of people, including advisors, think that I'm talking about an index mutual fund. No. So let me illustrate by showing you where this all came about and how it really became the brainchild of E.F. Hutton, originally in the 1980s, but then indexing came out in 1997. Now, when we talk about the various ways to save for the future, there are various research firms that do studies, and Cresmont is one of them. And they did a research study from 1960 to 2010. That's a 50-year period. And this is pretty typical of any 50-year period since the Great Depression. They found that if you took 50 years of stock market history, generally you'll have 70% of the years the market is up, 30% of those years the market goes down, okay? Now, from 2000 to 2010, we had 5 years the market was down and 5 years the market went up. And using indexing, we still doubled our money totally tax-free. But let me show you the difference here. Cresmont discovered that if you simply eliminated the loss years, so the 30% of years the market goes down, let's just eliminate those. You don't make anything, but you don't lose. You'd only need 25% of the up years to outperform the actual stock market. Now, if you think about it, this is pretty amazing because indexing does better than that. So having that in mind, let's go through and analyze what is a better way. And let me try to simplify what indexing is and how it can benefit you. When you have money accumulated inside of an IUL L.A.S.E.R fund, that's your money. It's not the insurance company's money. And let's say that we have a snapshot in time, age 65, and you can extrapolate from this. Every $1 million you accumulate, it's all the same. So if I have $1 million of cash value, and that's my nest egg that I've accumulated, you are receiving interest credits on that every year from what the insurance company is earning on their general account portfolio. That's called the GAP, General Account Portfolio. They invest that money in AAA and AA bonds, mortgages on shopping malls, on skyscrapers. They only loan maybe 50% loan to value, not 80% loan to value. That's why if they ever have to foreclose on a skyscraper, they come out smelling like a rose. And this is why banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of their tier one assets in insurance companies, because they're so safe, okay? They weathered the Great Depression with flying colors. And in 2008, when 400 banks went under, 900 more were on the watch list, on the brink of going under. Not one single legal reserve insurance company went under in the Great Depression, nor in 2008. And the federal government asked the 5 major banks to disclose where they had their tier one assets for liquidity and safety. It was in insurance companies, okay? So if I have $1 million in my policy, I am earning the general account portfolio rate. Now, back in the 1980s, interest rates were high. I got credited as high as 15.5%, never less than 11.75% tax-free. The lowest I've ever been credited is around 4%. So yes, let's use the lowest, and that's because of a low interest environment. So if I was feeling bearish about America in a given year, that I thought maybe we're headed for a recession, I can just settle for the general account portfolio rate. That's 4%. They would credit me $40,000. It's tax-free on my million, okay? Now, that's fine. That's usually better than what banks are paying, especially because it's tax-free. But any year that I feel bullish about America and I think the market's going to go up, let's say it's an election year or what have you, or the market's booming, I can link some or all of my cash value to an index or indices, several indexes of my choice. Okay, let's keep it simple. Let's use the S&P 500. So what you're doing when you link to an index, you're not telling the insurance company to take one dime of your million principal and invest it at risk in the market in the S&P 500. Your million has to stay safe in the insurance company, earning 4 in this example. What you're relinquishing is the 4% interest on your million that year. That would be $40,000, and you're telling the insurance company you can use that $40,000 of interest to fund an options budget to buy upside options. Now, these insurance companies, they're multi-trillion-dollar institutions. They're the number one purchaser of options in the world. They buy them hourly. And so they buy upside options in the index that you choose. Let's keep it simple. It could be the S&P 500, but you could choose 5 different indices and diversify if you want it. Now, what that allows the insurance company to do is credit you whatever that index increase is for that year, 1 year point to point. It could be September 15th to September 15th of the next year. And if the S&P is up 8%, they'll credit you $80,000. People say, how can they afford to do that? Well, because 40,000 of options doubles to 80,000 bucks. They wouldn't offer it if they can't afford to do it. If it goes up 12%, they'll credit you 120,000 because those options triple in value. Okay. Now, here's the critical part. If the market tanks, if it crashes, those options expire worthless. But guess what? You still have your million. If you had your entire $1 million in the market, you could lose 30 or 40% like 2008. Our clients didn't lose a dime in 2008. They were cheering because they didn't make anything maybe, but they didn't lose. The first 90 days of 2009, many of our clients locked in gains of 16% because it capped out the next year. So they'll credit you up to a cap, but the trade-off is if the market tanks or goes negative, you do not lose due to that market downturn, okay? So that's the beauty. You get to participate when the market goes up. You don't lose when the market goes down. So in my book, The L.A.S.E.R Fund, which explains this, in chapter 6 is this diagram that shows if you had $1 million of cash value and it's earning 4%, you can take the 4% anytime you want, or you can relinquish that, and it funds an options budget that allows the insurance company to pay you the gains if the market is up, but there's no losses if the market goes down. You get zero, but zero is your hero rather than losing 10, 20, 30, or 40%. The remaining $960,000 is still earning 4%, so it comes back and grows back to your million. At the end of the year, if the market tanked, you still have your million you started with. Now, that's pretty incredible when you think about it. What does that translate to? Well, let's take a really bad time period, 2007 to 2012. If you had $500,000 in the market, in the S&P 500 index, that $500,000 would have gone up a little bit, and then in 2008, it would have dropped down to $314,000, up to $388, $438, $438, and then up to $497. Not even quite back to break even by 2012. If you had a very conservative indexed insurance contract, you would have earned zero 2 of those years, 2008, 2011. If you capped out only at 10.5, you would have had 10.5 3 of those years, but you would have ended up with $691,000 for your 500 instead of not even coming back to break even. Most of our clients had doubled their money during that time period. 500,000 grew to $1 million by using indexing and by diversification and rebalancing, which I explain on this channel and in my books. So going to the Great Recession, we had a lot of Americans who saved their entire lifetime in traditional IRAs or 401ks in the market. And let's say in November of 1999, you had $1 million nest egg. Well, without adding a dime to that, many Americans felt like they had lost their future. They had to put off retirement 7 years because that $1 million dropped down to 600,000, 650,000. It took 4 years till 2007 just to make back what they lost. During that 7-year period, many of our clients, their $1 million doubled to $2 million using indexing. A lot of people thought they could retire in 2007, and then what happened in 2008? It crashed again for the second time in a decade. It took 4 more years till 2012 to come back to where $1 million was worth $1,046,800, not even enough to have outpaced inflation. During that 12-year period, many people with indexed universal life, their million had grown to $2.5 to $3 million, when people who had their money in the S&P were barely back above break even. So this is a huge difference, and I would strongly recommend that rather than having your money in the market, especially at retirement, we can't afford to put off taking money out of our retirement nest egg when the market tanks, because it's going to do that about every 7 years on the average. That was a pathetic 1/3 of 1% compounded rate of return. If you simply use indexing with a very conservative one, you would have ended up with 130% more money than having your money in the market and getting 4.68. But if you have annual reviews and you rebalance, many of our clients ended up with 250%, even 300% more at the end of the same period. And so let's go back to the year after I started. I started in 1974. If I had invested $500,000 in the S&P, in the stock market in 1975 without adding a dime, it would have been a roller coaster ride here in the red. I would have had some great gain years, the dot-com boom, but then I would have lost money after the 9/11 terrorist attacks and again in 2008 mortgage meltdown, and it would have barely come back in 2010 to 5.6 million before tax. If I had used indexing, I may not have made as much during the up years, but I didn't lose. I would have had 8 million though, with no heartburn. So I ask you, what would you rather have? A lot of heartburn as you go up and down with your retirement nest egg to end up with 5.6 million before tax. And then after tax, you only end up with 3.8 million. Or would you prefer to have no losses during the down years and maybe not as much gain on the up years and end up with 8 million totally tax-free? I'd rather have this one. I hope that would be your choice too. If you want to learn how to do this, I would strongly recommend you study. One of the best ways to do that is watch other YouTube videos on this channel or study my book, The L.A.S.E.R Fund. This has been flying off of our warehouse shelves. It retails on Amazon for $20 up to $60. If you buy it on Amazon, thank you. But I'll gift you a copy for free. It's actually 2 books in one. There's a total of about 300 pages. 200 pages have charts and graphs and explanations. That's on this left brain side, if that's the way you like to learn. If you learn more by stories, you simply flip it over to this book, and this one's about 100 pages, 12 chapters, 62 actual stories of clients who have used a properly structured max-funded IUL for all kinds of goals, not just retirement. If you want to use your whole brain, you can use the left brain and right brain dual approach. Now, when you're in there claiming your free copy, I require a little bit of skin in the game. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that, and I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail, but when you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, there's options for ways to invest in those formats. You can even schedule to attend a free educational webinar that we do on a weekly basis. You can even schedule an appointment with an IUL specialist that I have mentored and oversee, because you're going to want to see how this works in your particular set of circumstances with your numbers, and it's imperative that it's structured correctly. And so they'll do that for you, no cost or obligation. So take advantage of the resources, because this is about you and your brighter future.